and a late penalty shout at the other end went mysteriously unchecked right before Argentina scored the winner. Egypt were so incensed they filed a formal complaint with FIFA. Then against Switzerland, with the game slipping away and the Swiss having just equalized, a VAR review reached in and turned an Argentine yellow card into a Swiss red, flipping the entire match on its head. Even Argentina's own coach, Lionel Scaloni, admitted it afterward. Luck was on our side today, that's the reality. Go back further and Messi himself escaped without a card for a studs-up stamp on Algeria's captain that many said was a straight red. One after another, every 50-50 landing on the same side. That's the pattern. That's where VARgentina was born. And here's the theory that's now consuming the internet, the one this whole video has to reckon with. The suggestion is that FIFA wants Messi in the final, that a governing body expecting to bank nearly $9 billion from this tournament, run by a president who so adores Messi that he invited his Inter Miami club to the Club World Cup despite them not even qualifying, has a rooting interest in the greatest player of all time reaching one last showpiece in what is surely his final World Cup. Nobody's produced a smoking gun. But when you stack the officiating pattern on top of the money and the obvious affection, a lot of people have stopped believing in coincidence and started believing in a script. Which is exactly why Wednesday is FIFA's worst nightmare dressed up as a football match. Because up to now, that script, real or imagined, has played out against Cape Verde, against Egypt, against Switzerland. Wonderful, plucky teams, but teams the casual world wasn't glued to. Now the opponent is England, a giant, a founding nation of the sport, with more than 15,000 traveling fans already in the country and the undivided attention of the entire planet. If a soft red card or a phantom offside or a generous penalty tilts this particular game Argentina's way, there is nowhere to hide it. It won't be a footnote in a match half the audience skipped. It will be the England semi-final, dissected frame by frame, in slow motion, by a global audience that is already primed, already suspicious, already waiting with the screenshots ready. The pattern has become so visible that the semi-final itself has turned into a referendum on FIFA's integrity. Every single whistle on Wednesday is going to be interrogated like evidence in a trial. So what are we actually watching for? If the script is real, here's how it tends to show up, because we've seen the whole playbook already this tournament. Watch for an England goal getting chalked off for an offside, so microscopic only a chip in the ball can find it. Watch for a soft second yellow that reduces England to 10 men at the exact moment they take control. Watch for a generous penalty at one end, or a stonewall one waved away at the other, followed by a suspiciously convenient Argentina breakup field. None of that would be new. Every one of those things has already happened to somebody in this competition. So if you see it again on Wednesday, you'll know precisely why the whole internet erupts at once. But now let's take this seriously, because the lazy version of this story is a fairy tale of pure good against pure evil, and that's not what this is. Let me give you the other side properly. First, England are hardly innocent victims here because they got the rub of the green just to reach this stage. In their quarterfinal, Jude Bellingham's equalizer against Norway came moments after the ball appeared to clip an overhead camera cable, a contact that, had it been spotted, should have stopped play entirely. FIFA's chip said no touch, the goal stood, and Norway went home fuming. Tuchel himself looked at his team's performance and said flatly, "We were lucky today." So England have ridden their own controversy into this semi-final. This is not a spotless hero marching in to slay a cheat. Second, and this matters, every single Argentina decision people are furious about was, by the actual letter of the law, defensible. Embolo really did dive. The Egypt foul really was a foul under the rules. however far away it happened. Technically correct, but deeply unfair, is not the same thing as rigged. And third, the villain narrative is partly a distortion of distance. Roger Bennett, who was physically inside the stadium for the Egypt game, described the experience as the most profound I have had in an American stadium. Near religious, joyous, with strangers hugging and Messi sobbing. On television it looked like villainy. In the flesh, it looked like magic. The truth is that this is far more likely FIFA's chronic incompetence and inconsistency, plus a genuine institutional crush on the Messi story, than some literal plot to fix the scoreline. There is no proof of a fix. There is only a governing body that has torched its own credibility so thoroughly that it no longer gets the benefit of the doubt on anything. And here's the part that should genuinely excite you, because it's the reason the script might not even matter. England are really, really good, and they are more than capable of winning this on pure football, no favors required. Thomas Tuchel has become only the fourth manager in history to take England to a World Cup semi-final, after Alf Ramsey, Bobby Robson, and Gareth Southgate. And he's done it with a side built around two of the form players of the entire tournament. Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham are both sitting on 6 goals through 6 games, a tally bettered among the surviving teams only by Messi and Kylian Mbappe. And it's not just the numbers, it's the shape of the thing. Kane drops deep off the front to pull defenders out and knit the play together. That drags Argentina's backline into decisions it doesn't want to make. Then England hit them with rotating pace on the flanks. Bukayo Saka, Anthony Gordon, Noni Madueke, Marcus Rashford, Ibarrechi Eze. Fresh legs recycled every game, and through the middle comes Bellingham, arriving late into the box like a missile. It is almost a custom-built machine for exploiting the exact weakness Argentina have shown all tournament long. Because make no mistake, this Argentina team is beatable. And it's beatable in obvious ways. Their defense has been sliced open by everyone. Cape Verde carved them up. Egypt scored a goal of the tournament contender against them. Switzerland found the spaces behind their backline over and over. Scaloni has openly admitted his side can barely string 5 or 6 passes together right now. They give up leads for fun. And they are exhausted, having been dragged into extra time twice and a last-gasp escape act once. 3 brutal knockout marathons in a row, while their 39-year-old talisman runs on fumes. Messi failed to score against Switzerland, the first time in 10 World Cup matches he's drawn a blank. If England press that tired, leaky defense with their energy and their pace, they can win this outright, cleanly, and shove the entire VARgentina narrative back down FIFA's throat. And yet, you would be a fool to write Argentina off. And here's why. This is the most experienced, most ice-cold team left in the competition when a match is hanging by a thread. Nothing phases them. They have lost their fluency and kept on winning anyway, because they possess the 2 things you cannot coach and cannot buy. Lionel Messi and a squad that can conjure a moment out of absolutely nothing. Julian Alvarez's 25-yard howitzer against Switzerland. Enzo Fernandez's header to sink Egypt. When the game is level and the tension is unbearable, someone in blue and white produces magic. And do not underestimate the emotion powering them either. An entire nation is chasing La Última de Leo, Messi's last dance. He is about to face England for the very first time in his life, having missed their only recent meeting through suspension, telling reporters simply, "I've never had the chance to play against England." They've even demanded, and been granted, their lucky blue away kit, the same one they wore beating England in 1986 and 1998. They believe in the Kabbalah, the superstition, and they believe the football gods owe Messi one more. Never bet against that. Tactically, this is going to come down to a few enormous individual duels, and they're worth thinking about now so you know where to look on Wednesday. The obvious one. Who stops Messi? He's no longer the box-to-box menace of a decade ago, drifting and conserving energy. But he remains the most dangerous player alive in the final third, and England's midfield and fullbacks will have to decide whether to man-mark him or trust their shape. Give him a yard, and he'll punish it. Then there's the mirror problem for Argentina. How on earth do they handle the Kane and Bellingham axis with a defense this stretched and this tired? If Argentina drop deep to protect that fragile backline, they hand England the ball and the territory England want. If they push up to squeeze the game, they leave the exact gaps behind them that Bellingham lives in. There's no comfortable answer, which is precisely why England fancy this. And in the engine room, England's legs against Argentina's experience is the whole match in miniature. Can Argentina's savvy, streetwise midfielders slow the game to their tempo, or will England's energy simply run them into the Atlanta ground? There's a subplot in the England camp too, and it's worth watching because it could either galvanize them or crack them. After the Norway game, Tuchel publicly slammed his own team's display and called them lucky. And Bellingham, the two-goal hero, did not take it well, firing back a withering line, questioning whether his coach even knows what it's like to play against opponents like Haaland and Odegaard. A pointed dig at Tuchel's short playing career. It's the kind of tension that either forges a team in the fire or quietly poisons the dressing room at the worst possible moment. Tuchel will need to smooth it over before Wednesday, because a fractured England walking into this cauldron is exactly what Argentina would order. So what's the actual prediction? Here's my honest read. If this is 11 against 11 and the officiating stays out of it, England have a genuine, maybe even better than even chance. They're fresher, they're in form, and the matchup suits them almost perfectly against a defense on its last legs. On pure merit, I'd lean slightly England. But Argentina have Messi, they have the composure, and they have a way of finding the result no matter how ragged they look. Whether by brilliance or, as their critics would hiss, by a friendly whistle. The single biggest question mark hanging over the whole thing isn't tactical. It's whether the game will be allowed to be decided on the grass at all. And that right there is what makes this the most anticipated and most controversial match of the entire World Cup. Remember too, what's actually waiting for the winner. Whoever comes through Atlanta books a place in the final at MetLife on July 19th against either France or Spain, the two most complete sides left in the tournament, who face off in their own semifinal the day before. For England, this is the door to their first World Cup final since they won the whole thing in 1966, the moment an entire nation has ached for across 60 years of near misses and heartbreak. For Argentina, it's one more step toward letting Messi walk off into the sunset as a back-to-back world champion, a send-off that would cement him, beyond any argument, as the greatest of all time. The stakes could not be higher for either side, which only sharpens every one of those looming refereeing questions. A controversial call doesn't just decide a game here. It decides which of two footballing superpowers gets a shot at immortality, and which one flies home with a lifetime of what if. That is the pressure sitting on the shoulders of whoever FIFA appoints to referee this, and you can bet they feel it. And we've barely mentioned that even without the FIFA subplot, this would still be colossal, because the history between these two is soaked in drama. This is the 6th time England and Argentina have met at a World Cup, but the first ever at the semi-final stage, and their first meeting of any kind in over 2 decades. This is the rivalry of the robbery of the century in 1966, when Argentina's captain Antonio Rattin was sent off at Wembley and refused to leave the pitch, a man whose death at 89 was announced on Saturday, hours before this very Argentina side took the field in black armbands. It's the rivalry of 1986, of Maradona at the Azteca, the hand of God, and the goal of the century in the same afternoon, 4 years after the Falklands War, gave it all a darker edge. Maradona later wrote of that handball that he preferred it to the brilliant goal, because it was a bit like stealing the wallet of the English. It's the rivalry of Beckham's red card in 1998 and his redemption penalty in 2002. There is nearly 6 decades of enmity stitched into this fixture, and on Wednesday, it gets its biggest chapter yet, with a place in the World Cup final at stake. And you cannot separate this rivalry from the shadow of the Falklands, or Las Malvinas, as Argentina calls them. The 74-day war in 1982 that killed more than 900 people and injected real-world venom into every meeting since. It's why 1986 felt like revenge. And it's why the emotion around this game runs so much hotter than sport alone can explain. It's already bubbling. After beating Switzerland, Argentina's dressing room was filmed belting out an obscene chant referencing the Falklands and vowing to win the trophy, por las Malvinas, por Diego, y por la última de Leo. Their fans have spent the whole tournament singing, El que no salta es un inglés. He who doesn't jump is an Englishman. More than 15,000 England supporters are already in the States, many staying on, and there have been minor scuffles with Argentine fans on Miami's South Beach, with authorities in Georgia bracing for flashpoints in the days before kickoff. To understand why Argentina play the way they do, the mix of dazzling skill and cynical edge that drives their opponents mad, the journalist Jonathan Wilson once put it perfectly, describing their football as of the streets, where you learn to look after yourself because there's no teacher with a whistle. That is the soul of this team, and it's about to collide with English fury on the